Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast with Dr. Mike Headlee and Dr. Gordon Fimreite, where we'll be exploring different angles of health to achieve the best version of yourself. Now, here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Gordon.
Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Mike Headlee. With me is Dr. Gordon Fimreite. Happy New Year, Gordy.
Happy New Year, Mike. Good to be here, and welcome, audience. And we have a really special program today. We're going to talk about a new year with a new you, strategies to make you healthier and happier. And really, this is a clean slate. We get to reset and refocus, and we get to go forward and give you all kinds of great ideals, things that you can do to help to encourage you to get on this bandwagon of good health. So welcome to the Health Angle Podcast.
I am so excited too, Dr. Gordy. And there is 2 times a year where people really evaluate their health the most. Number one is on their birthday, because they just added another number to their birthday and to their age, but also New Year's. We can start a New Year's resolution any day of the week or the year or the month. But our birthday and New Year's is when people really take a really close look at all aspects of their health and their life and see if they want to make some tweaks or big changes or small changes, keep everything exactly the same. So I'm excited to give our listeners some really good ideas, revisit some things they've already heard about, but maybe spark some new ideas and some changes so they can change their habits and change their life to make this year the best year so far.
That's wonderful. This always reminds me of the beginning of the year. I love going to the gym, and I have been for decades at this point. And you go to the gym at the beginning of January, that gym is so packed. There's so many people. And just a few weeks after, all of a sudden it's empty. Nobody's around. And I thought about that, and I actually put this in my book. I go, why does that happen? And I think the real reason is when people put goals together, their New Year's resolutions or whatever you want to call it, they do too much too quickly, too soon. They just go all out. They do just too much. And for example, if they go to the gym and you go 110%, the next day you're going to be very sore. And your mentality is going to be like, I don't want to go through that again. So you're doing 2 disservices. Number one, mentally, you don't want to do it. And number 2, physically, you don't want to do it. So I think the key here is it's just a gradual. It's just add things on gradually and make it easy. Sometimes you got to hold yourself back, but just be consistency. And we always talk about being consistency is more important than intensity. And this is a good example. So New Year's resolutions should be just gradually and just adding and just be patient and make that into a lifestyle. I kind of liked adding all these health ideals every year, and I consider it almost like a hobby. And if you do the hobby long enough, all of a sudden it becomes a lifestyle. So I hope it becomes a lifestyle, some of these things that we get to share.
Great intro for that. And I don't go to the gym right now. I do work out at home, small and simple, easy. Consistency is my key as well. And so thanks for sharing that. And a lot of people think, oh, I just, I want to lose all this weight, or I lost my first 10 pounds in the first 3 weeks. But like you said, mentally and physically, I'm so exhausted. I just say, oh, it's snowing out. It's 10 below in Minnesota. I don't want to go to the gym today. I see it. I hear it. I would like to start on keeping it simple by sharing this one book that I read years ago. One Small Step Can Change Your Life, the Kaizen Way. And it says big goals trigger big fear in our brain. That's why it's so important to start simple and easy so we don't get fearful. 1 hour with a trainer every day, 5 days a week, that's a massive goal to do for a year. It's not a big deal to do today or tomorrow or for a week. Massive for the year. And in there, one quick story on here, Dr. Gordy, they talked about a lady that wanted to exercise and lose weight, 2 of the most common New Year's resolutions. And I wrote down the top 10 and we can discuss those. I'm curious your thoughts on some of those. But this trainer had this lady, literally, she goes, do you have a treadmill? Yeah, I don't like going to those gyms. She was self-conscious. She was too overweight. She didn't want to go to the gym and have everyone stare at her. So she had a treadmill at home, but she never used it. And there's clothes on. She says, go take the clothes off, dust it off. The trainer said to this lady who wanted to lose like 50 pounds, she goes, can you stand on your treadmill for 1 minute a day? Okay, and mark that on a calendar so you can prove it. That's what I'll take as proof that you mark it on the calendar and come back in a month. She goes, 1 minute a day? I'm not going to lose any weight. Of course, I can stand on my treadmill for 1 minute a day and make a check mark and come back in a month. So she trusted her and she did that. Did she lose any weight? No, she probably gained a few pounds because she was stressed out because she didn't lose weight and kept on eating. Okay, now the second month, what are we going to do? We're going to start running or training. You're going to stand on that treadmill 1 minute a day and turn it on, and then turn it off and check a list and come back in a month. Oh my God. She did it anyway, Gordy. 60 days, 1 minute a day, standing on it. The second month, 1 minute, she turned it on, turned it off after a minute. Of course, she didn't lose any weight. Of course, she probably gained a couple pounds. She's stressed out because I'm 60 days into the new year and I haven't lost any weight and I'm not in any better shape and I'm feeling. But guess what she did? She created a habit, didn't she? She created a habit. So the third month, she's already on the treadmill. I better try. I got 5 minutes. I got 10 minutes. So she started every day for 60 days. She continued the habit. So that was already wired in her brain. I got to go on the treadmill. I got to go on the treadmill. Long story short, she ended up losing the weight and getting fit and healthy because she built the habit first.
That's great.
So simple, isn't it? Like what? Who can't stand on the treadmill for a minute a day, you know?
That's such a great story, Dr. Mike. One of the books that, for me, that was very encouraging. I received this book when I was 18 years old. Now, I grew up in a small town, 1,500 people in rural Wisconsin. So there wasn't a lot of outward thinking. Today, we got the internet, right? You can go on TikTok, you can go on all these social media sites, and you get inspired. You see videos from all over the world. Not back then. So I read this book. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And I remember how powerful that was. It's just it was just really about thinking, kind of a big picture mindset, achieving life goals, believing in yourself, setting these realistic but ambitious goals, and really actively pursuing opportunities. And that was one of the books that was really instrumental for me as far as getting myself going. And then when I was in professional college, there was a lecture by Mark Victor Hansen. It's actually a seminar, and he came in to speak. And those that don't know Mark Victor Hansen, he was the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul book series. And he's well known as a motivational speaker and author. So we saw him and he presented the ideal of setting 101 lifetime goals. And I know I talked about this when we had a goal setting podcast, but it was so powerful. Try to do 101 lifetime goals. Now, I had lost that, as my story goes, and I don't know, maybe 10 years, 15 years later, I had found it when I was moving. And I looked at that goal list and I'm like, I couldn't believe how many goals that I accomplished. Some of the goals were like own your own practice, own a home, write a book. Some of the destinations as far as travel, fitness goals, list goes on and on. So really, I think it's so important. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about goal setting here in a little bit, but I think it's really important. As the old expression goes, if you ink it, you think it, the old ink it as far as writing it down on paper. If you ink it, you think it, and it becomes ingrained and it becomes unconscious. So the ideal is getting your left and your right brain working together. How many times have you had a challenge and the next day, all of a sudden, voila, you have a solution, you thought about it. And the goals work much the same. So it's kind of like a computer where you have the software, you write it and you tell it what you want it to do. And the hard drive is basically what runs the computer. And that would be the equivalent of your right and your left brain kind of working together. And all of a sudden, everything comes together. But I think goal setting is really critically important. I think I learned my lesson years ago when I wrote those 101 lifetime goals and just saw how many were ingrained and actually accomplished. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, One of my favorite books, I was just looking on my top shelf, on the top shelf of my bookshelf. I keep my 20 plus favorite books that if I had to move, I probably wouldn't get rid of those. I could live without the other ones, that I could live without those. But Jim Quick has a book called Super Brain. And what he talks about the 3M method. He talks about mindset, like you just mentioned. We have to have the proper mindset, whether it's goals, visualizations, affirmations, different things. And then the motivation, and we talked about getting to the gym, our motivation falters right away when we get stressed physically or mentally or tired. And the methods, a lot of people start with methods. They say, tell me what to do to lose weight, to get in better shape. How do I save money, or how do I start this hobby or whatever? Give me the methods. Well, the methods are on YouTube University. They're all out there. So why doesn't everyone achieve Tai Chi masters and yoga masters and have really ripped biceps? The methods are out there, Gordy. We talk about the methods. You mentioned how to lift weights to be fit and healthy and eat to be fit and healthy. Well, what's out there too is the mindset and the motivation, but we have to start with that. What do I really want? What doesn't stress me out, but I can take small, little incremental steps today and every day. And this time next year, we're going, oh my gosh, I checked off 20 of those 100 lists that you mentioned of goals. So mindset, I like the three pyramid: mindset, motivation, and the methods, and not just starting with methods, because we could have already went down. I'll write a SMART goal. Here's, what you need to eat good to lose weight. And here's what your BMI should be. And you should be able to do this many push-ups if you're this old. And we could have told all the methods already, but I think mindset, wow, we need to know. And starting with mindset, I think I would like everyone to think about 2024 and reflect on 24 and write down, when and where you were at your best. Reflect some of your successes and maybe some of the things you want to improve on, and do a really good reflection. You say, oh, wow, that was really good. I never missed the gym one time. Well, they just carry that over into 25. That's not a big improvement category. But if you spent way too much money compared to what you earned, well, you need to maybe tighten up that in 2025. And if you ate out way too much, and you gained, some weight, well, maybe we need to think of not eating out so much. So reflect on 2024 is some of the advice I have, Dr. Gordy. Where and when were you at your best? What successes? What improvements? Then you can start tapping in to what you want to accomplish in 2025.
That's good information. Love it, Mike. Really powerful. I want to address something. I know sometimes during the holidays that we just passed, people kind of can get down and out. So I want to address this because it's become kind of an issue that a lot of people are dealing with, and that's mental health issues, whether it's anxiety, stress, or depression. And just want to address this real quick because I think it is important. Now, and it really has become a real issue in society. And I think adopting health strategies for your physical well-being really has a huge impact on your mental and emotional well-being. So if I could say that there's two things that really have added, in my opinion, to the health issues that we're seeing. Number one is eating of the processed foods, toxic ingredients, man-made, basically junk food. And the first goal I would say is try to eliminate that. Number two, social media. The old saying, stinking thinking. Social media, we've seen studies, there's so many out there now validating that if you do the social media and you're really ingrained into it, that can have a really negative impact on your mental health. So get rid of it or eliminate it or just reduce it. If anything. There was a study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine by researchers at the University of South Australia. They found that physical activity is 1.5 times more effective than counseling or medications for managing depression. I'm going to read that again because that is so powerful. Physical activity like running, biking, swimming, or lifting weights is 1.5 times more effective than counseling or medication for managing depression. So get out there and get some exercise going. Hopefully, it can inspire you to get going on a program, a light program, and get yourself going in the right direction. Things that you can also do, there's apps out there for people that are just a little bit down, like Calm and Headspace, and that'll guide you through meditation and breathing exercises to really get you going. So really, when it comes to the new year, it's really about mindset, building healthy habits, making hobbies into lifestyle. And as far as eating, I know that's going to be a great goal for a lot of people. I love what Ben Lerner, he was the author of Body by God. I love what he said is like, eat foods made by God. In other words, reverse the clock to 120 years ago or thereof, when everything was natural on earth and you got organic or natural, non-tainted foods. And I always try when I'm eating, I always try to kind of think about, was this food around 120 years ago? So everything recently, toxins, processed, everything from cosmetics to foods to the hygiene products that we use, cleaning products. Really, I think it's really a critical thing going into the new year is to take a look at all those products, planning your meals so you're not resorting to eating out in those junk foods. Stick with lean proteins, whole grains, healthy fats, colorful vegetables. And then don't forget hydration. 75% of the population are chronically dehydrated. A lot of people mistake that for being hungry and they tend to overeat. So just small tweaks like that can make really a big, huge difference. You can use these tracking progress technologies, fitness trackers, health apps, and even notebooks. So I encourage you to try to get involved and maybe do some documentation digitally to really get you going in the right direction.
You know, when I said to reflect on 2024, I'm going to ask you this, Gordy, and the rest of our listeners. I'm going to do the big question first. Compared to 5 years ago, do you think you're healthier today versus 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think in some respects, yes, because you
Okay.
get to know yourself. And I think that's part of this journey as well. You get to know what your body can and can't handle. You get into really good habits. So for me, it's a yes.
Nice.
How about you?
You know, I think in a lot of areas, yes, a couple joint issues. That's part of the big picture. I would say not everything is better, but a lot of things are way, way better. And then I asked the 1 year question too. Compared to this time last year, are you healthier now than the beginning of the year? And so the question is, why or why not? So I'm curious, Gordy, why getting to know yourself, maybe give me one or two or three things that maybe you've done in the last 5 years or even this year to uptick it even 1% or 5% or 10% better now than you were 5 years ago because you're 5 years older than you were 5 years ago, but you're healthier. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think you dig into your own way of life and you take critical looks. And I know sometimes there's triggers for me personally, and there's some foods that get to my digestion, and I'm getting to know what those are. And I also know what you're supposed to do to eliminate those factors. And I think, when you're in the health arena, you have a lot of resources, so you just tap into that stuff more and more and more. And I think also you learn about new products. And we talked last week about some of the supplements that were brought to our attention because of the pandemic. And one of the supplements that I really didn't know much about was NAC. And I found out so many wonderful things about that. It really reduces oxidative stress in your body, glutathione, and it has a really good things as far as like making your body healthier, keeping it younger, tapping into things in your own body that can make a big difference in keeping you healthy, your immune system, the way you look, your joints, just all types of things. So I think that's a good question, Mike. Right back at you.
Yeah. Am I healthier now than 5 years ago or even beginning of the year? Yes, because I've really prioritized sleep. And I think, I can go with less sleep or whatever, but I'm really consistent with sleep, for instance. I'm really consistent with hydration because I measure the amount of water and put it in my office. And I really want to drink as much as I'm supposed to before noon And then before I leave the office, because I don't want to be drinking a gallon of water at night, for instance, and being up all night. So the little tiny consistencies have made me healthier by reading more positive things. I journal and write, and I feel like I have way less stressful bad days where I don't sleep because I get the stress out, or I meditate and do all these other practices. So it's the little things. There's not like, oh my gosh, I lost 50 pounds and now I'm just way healthier. It's just the consistency with the little things, I would say. I categorize the physical goals into my wellness wheel. I talk about our spine and nervous system, our posture, and is one category, spine and nervous system, and our body structure, our posture. Then I talk about eating. Then I talk about drinking, because they're different. And when we eat is different than what we drink. Pure water, which you're really good at explaining, the 5-step process at a Whole Foods. And sleeping is number 4. 5 is moving or exercise. 6 is breathing. It gets its own category because it's so critical. And then you said earlier, mindset and thinking is number 7. So I break down the physical goals into those 7 things to evaluate and find out where you need to really dive in for the new year. And then I'm going to run through maybe just the top 10 New Year's resolutions that people have for this year. And then I'll let you teach us how to set goals and the importance of having specific and written down goals. So here's the top 10 New Year's resolutions plus a couple bonuses. Lose weight, get fitter. Imagine that. Increase our mental health. You hit that right on the head. Quit unhealthy habits, mostly smoking and drinking, but also eating out and processed foods. Start a new hobby, travel more, improve relationships. I think since COVID and political and fragmented families, I think that's a big one for a lot of people that I've heard is I want to restore some relationships that maybe have gotten rusty over the years. Manage finances, not spending as much and then saving more. I like doing a net worth sheet. There's a lot of them online, so you can write down all of your assets from savings to furnishings in your house to whatever, and really see where your net worth sheet is. Learn something new is another resolution. Improve your sleep. Practice gratitude and self-care. Spend more time with family and friends. Read more. That's 10, but here's just a couple others that were close behind the top 10. Pursue career ambitions. Maybe go back to college, take online classes, cut down smoking junk food and eating out, volunteer more, cook new foods, cook more at home instead of eating out, and then doing fasting and cleanses and just really get clean on the inside as well. And then some spiritual practices, maybe attend church or read the Bible or get a spiritual book. So those were the top 15 or so, Gordy. Any of those ring a bell with people you've talked to over the years? I mean, that's pretty common in your practice and the people.
Those sound very common, don't they, Mike? Very. I mean, some of them not so much, but yeah, those are powerful. If you could tap into all 15 of those, you would live a pretty fantastic life, or else pick the top 5 that are weak, a little bit weak side, and you really try to work on those. I think that's the key, is find weaknesses and try to bring those strengths up to the other strengths. So what I want to do is go through goal setting, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. I just want to give people an idea of things that they can possibly do. The first thing I have on my list is a to-do list. I know that sounds simple, but I think it's so important to put a to-do list, and then boom, you can cross it off, go on to the next one. You use it professionally, you can use it personally, whatever. I use an app. It's called Color Note app. It's perfect for me, and I know you could look on whether you have an Apple phone or Android. You could put up the top apps for to-do list. And there's some wonderful technology out there. So I use the Color Note app. And what I do is I write down things like I'm studying Chinese since my wife is from China. So every time I got a new word, I'll put it in the app. And that way at the end of it, I can record it. I also use it for podcast subjects. Sometimes I'm out and about and I have this idea for a podcast subject and I'll write it down. Or maybe something like a travel destination, I'll write it down as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is listing positive affirmations. Some people put Post-it notes everywhere. I think that's wonderful. Another one is if you're kind of have a stressful situation that you're kind of under and you just don't know what to do, I like to put it on a pro and a con list. So take this situation, write it down, write the pros and the cons, and then put it all on paper and get it out of your mind. And then if there's another situation, again, put the pro and the con of that situation, put it on paper. And what usually happens is you think about the paper instead of the actual problem, and you think of the resolutions pretty quickly. And then in the upcoming year, what are your goals? List them out. And then in the previous year, what was your biggest successes? So my wife and I just put our goals out, and it was actually kind of fun. We looked at what we accomplished. It was fun. We could just check and see what we did, and it was rewarding. I think there's a lot to that. And you had mentioned that earlier, Mike, in the podcast about those successes. And I think that's important. But also write out your goals. What do you want to accomplish in the next year? What did I learn? How did I grow personally and professionally? Next thing, when you're in a negative cycle, we all get in them, and we just, in these negative cycles, we don't know what to do. And I encourage you to do this. Write down 3 things positive that happened to you today. And at every time at that same time of day, sit down, someplace quiet, write down 3 things that were positive. It might be difficult. You might think for the first time, like when you're in that cycle, I can't think of anything that positively happened to me today. But what happens over time, you continue to do that, you start to filter in only the good things and you forget about the bad things. And the next day you're like, oh my gosh, I had all these positive things going. See, what you're trying to do is reframe and keep the positive things keeping coming in and then getting rid of those negative things. And then how about your health goals? Prioritize first. Write out, like, for example, vitamin lists. Let's say you want vitamins in your life. Write them out. Maybe you want to walk after dinner, like I had mentioned earlier. Write that out. Maybe your weight. You want to put ideal weight of what you want to get to. Put that on paper. The next goal is maybe food and meal preparation lists. Include in between snacks. How do you want to organize this? Things that you want to do to reduce and eliminate from your diet, to the type of snacks that you want to really eat. And then how can you exchange the bad things with healthy organic foods? Next one is maybe weight training. Maybe you're not getting enough weightlifting. I think weightlifting is really important. It's the fastest strategy to get a faster metabolism. Every 10 years that go by between the ages of 20 all the way up to age 70, 80, you lose about 7 pounds of muscle mass every 10 years. So write out those weightlifting goals. I think it's really important that we all have weightlifting goals. Cardio, walking, elliptical, swimming, write them out. Stretching goals. What do you want to accomplish? Maybe you want to get a routine going before you go to bed. Go to YouTube, get some inspiration, get some ideals. And then write 1 or 2 things that you did without telling anybody, unanimously. You're just doing something to help someone. Maybe you're donating, maybe you're putting out good intentions with somebody. Start small and just gradually add increments to your own goals.
A couple things I would like to add. You like to do stuff on your computer and apps, and you're more tech savvy, I believe. I'd still do old school, like a Microsoft Office or an Excel spreadsheet. So on the left hand side, I write down my goals morning, noon, and night. And so it's January 2nd. So I'll put a little check mark on all the goals and all of my daily action steps that I want to accomplish. So I go, oh, I didn't do my stretching routine yet today. So I still have time to do that. And I just like to see the physical check mark.
Mm-hmm.
I also like to, at the end of the day, do a daily recap that what was my state and my focus, my energy, and then a couple of highlights of the day. Did I have great energy and focus? Did I have what I call a holy moment where someone gifted me a thank you card, or did I make someone's day, open the door, or write a thank you for someone else, and just really schedule my days and my weeks and write out to-do list. I write that out too as well, Gordy. And to finish up, I would just like to finish up with a few quotes, and then I'll let you finish up. So if you don't step forward, you're always going to be in the same place. So how are you going to step forward in 2025 and take that first step on the treadmill, that first step by turning on the treadmill for a minute, that second step by staying on the treadmill more than a minute? It's our choices that show us who we truly are far more than our abilities. One inspirational video that I recommend is going on YouTube and typing in Arthur Yoga. It's one of the best 4-minute videos I've ever watched. The summary is a disabled war veteran who is using 2 handheld crutches and was 100 pounds overweight, barely walking. That's all I'm going to say. 4 minutes. It's just inspirational. I have a hard time not tearing up when I watch that. Arthur Yoga on YouTube. He put one step in front of the other, changed his life. Now he's changing lives. So 4 of the worst words you can say, Dr. Gordy, are if I had only. If I had only done those little simple steps from January to March and from March to June, if I would only had started sooner, if I would only been consistent like those chiropractors are talking about, geez, then I wouldn't regret so much in my life. If I had only, well, today's your chance. What are you going to do today? And then my last quote, Dr. Gordy, is little by little, little becomes a lot. Little by little, little becomes a lot. And everyone's always seen those videos where people quit smoking and quit drinking, and they drink like 6 glasses of water a day and their skin improves and they look 10 years younger. People have seen the videos, what happens to your body in a year when you do a plank every day, and what happens, and even our bank accounts. What if you put $1 and doubled it every day for the year? So then the next day I put $2, the next day I put $4, the next day I put $8. Doesn't add up really fast. But after, about 6 months, you're putting in some chunks of change, and, you have several $1,000s at the end of the year that, like, oh my gosh, I got a few $1,000s. Should I save it, invest it, or go on a trip? What are you going to do? And it's just by dollar bills and the Acorn apps and all the other apps out there that you round stuff up and put your change in there. And pretty soon you got a big pile of money that you just usually throw in your couch cushions, and give away. And save it, and little by little, little becomes a lot. So that's all I have, Gordy. Take us home.
Mike, thank you for sharing. That was so powerful. Great information. That video, I would encourage our viewers to see that. That was inspirational. I want to summarize things to our audience. Write out 101 lifetime goals. If you can't do 101, start out with 25. Just start with something. Start your goal sheet now, professionally, personally. Just write out what you want to accomplish. Keep it simple. Number 3, what I challenge our audience also is to make goals that are just to replace things in your home, such as your cleaning hygiene, like shampoos and soaps and toothpaste and all that kind of stuff. Change those to organic, non-chemical, non-toxic products. So just start changing out your cleaning hygiene products. Number 4, go through your foods, do the same thing. Number 5, the water you drink, purify it. There's these 5-phase purification refilling stations at many health food stores and a lot of grocery chains. So start to filter your water, real simple. Number 6, just remember, of all the stuff that we talked about, consistency is more important than intensity.
Yeah, we went through a lot of stuff like we usually do, and hopefully we don't overwhelm you, because one little action step can make massive changes in your life if you start today. And so my number one thing I recommend is you taking this information, listening to it again, take notes, make some distinctions, and then write down your number one takeaway that you can talk to your best friend about and support each other in your New Year's challenges, New Year's changes, New Year's resolutions. So this time next year, you can both celebrate that you made some major accomplishments in your health. And then what's your number one action step? What's your number one action step? And I'm going to do better with my to-do list based on what Gordon said. And then I'm going to list some more positive affirmations. And I say some out loud. I like writing things down. I write some good ones in my planner every day since I'm old school, but I'm gonna focus on those top. I'm gonna refine my to-do list, thanks to you, Dr. Gordy, and list my positive affirmations and refine those. I didn't change those from last year. So I'm gonna change those. So that's my number one action step that I can do today. What is your number one action step that you can start today? So this year is going to be the best of your life so far. And I'm guessing our podcast this time next year is going to be the new year, new you, set new goals for 2026. So what are you going to do to take the action step to start today?
Great. Thanks for sharing, Dr. Mike. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast. Please share, please like, and hit that notification bell. We'll have our next subject on the screen, so we'll catch you on the next episode of the Health Angle Podcast. Until then, we'll see you.
Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle Podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode.